This is TWiT.
So Tim Sweeney of Epic is in a battle with Google. Epic, remember, very famously did not want to put its Fortnite, the hottest game of the last few years, in the store, in the Play Store, because they want a 30% cut. So, but the problem is if you're not in the Play Store, it's hard for people to get it. It's risky to get it. So Epic went to them and said, look, we would like to put Fortnite in the Play Store, but we don't want to give you your 30% of in-app purchases. It's a free app, but they make billions. Tim Sweeney made $7 billion last year on in-app purchases of Fortnite.
Do they have a similar deal with Apple, or are they just like, well, Apple, you're so amazing?
I don't think so. The thing is, Apple, you got no choice. There's no side loading. You have a choice on Android, right?
Okay.
Exactly.
And so, honestly, and I think there is, as I remember, a case going to the Supreme Court about Apple's monopoly. Honestly, Apple has a monopoly on apps you could put on the iPhone, but Google does not.
Did you see the information? Jessica Lesson did a story about getting their app approved by the Apple Store. And it was designed to rile people, but it talked about the approval process in depth. And
it used to be pretty painful back in the days.
I think it's
still painful. I think it's more painful.
Yeah. But people are willing to do it because
eyeballs.
Yeah,
they have to.
If you want to be on the iPhone, and in the U.S. anyway, the iPhone is very, very dominant. No, I didn't. Inside our App Store ordeal, I love Jessica Lesson. She's been on our shows. She's great. It all started with the price. Peter Schultz, who leads our product and engineering teams, walked into my office and told me we couldn't charge what we had planned to for our upcoming news app because you have to follow Apple's own tiers.
Oh.
And I don't mean T-E-A-R-S.
Oh.
I mean T-I-E-R-S. They wanted $30 a year, but that's not in the Apple tier.
It goes on to talk about things like the way they advertised was too over the top. It talks about...
They rejected the app 4 times.
Yeah, they rejected it because they had some of the stories they ran in the app were on the free site, so they changed the way that worked. They had to change the way a lot of things worked.
Now, I'm a subscriber, so I already have the information, and I put the name of the app, by the way, is great, Tech Top 10, and it's actually very useful. What's their #1 story? Alex Heath's story about Twitter bidding to build a decentralized social network. They do really great work. In fact, they've gotten better year after year after year. But this is what I love about the information and Jessica is they don't mind speaking truth to power, and it's a risky thing. You don't see a lot of developers complaining about Apple's process too publicly because
they know it's
a lot of power there,
buttering their bread, essentially. What I don't get about this thing with Epic is it takes a lot of cojones to come up to someone and say, hey, I want to use your platform, but I want to use it on my terms. I know you can give me more and more eyeballs and get more people access to my game, but I want to do this on my own terms.
They're making the calculated decision to do this based on the fact that they think demand is higher and Google won't say no. They just think they're the ones in power in this play, in this situation.
We talked about it briefly on All About Android last night, and I wonder, because I don't have data in front of me or anything, but I wonder, is Epic sitting at a point of plateau right now as far as growth?
And maybe that's why they want to be in the store?
Right. So what prompted them to say, hey, you know what, we need to give Android a try, and we need to give the Google way of doing it a try, but we still want to leverage our strength of, hey, we are Epic and Fortnite.
Here's Epic's statement they gave to The Verge. Epic doesn't seek a special exemption for ourselves. Rather, we expect to see a general change in smartphone industry practices in this regard. Okay, good luck.
Well, with that statement, it's okay. You're trying to pioneer something for the people behind you. Yeah. Great, but still, you're going into an ecosystem. So it's pretty black and white.
The threat here, though, is a threat of litigation. We believe this form of tying of a mandatory payment service with a 30% fee is illegal in the case of a distribution platform with over 50% market share. So I think that's essentially saying, you got to let us in because otherwise we're going to sue.
And Google said, okay, we'll meet you in court on Tuesday
Google said that.
or Wednesday.
Yeah. And by the way, Jessica Lesson's story says the biggest problem, as you pointed out, Stacey, with the App Store, the biggest problem they had, if we want to launch, we had to disable a part of the app that allowed users to preview information articles and subscribe to read them. The reason is, of course, that's information subscription doesn't go through the App Store.
Mm-hmm.
And Apple wants that 30%.
Yeah.
And so this is a problem. And honestly, we've gone back and forth about this on all of our Mac shows since the day it started for years. And, on the one hand, developers, if you do it yourself, you have to provide bandwidth to store your app, which is expensive. You have to promote it, which is expensive. You have all sorts of issues. You go into the App Store, Apple takes 30%, but before that you get storage, bandwidth, promotion. They handle the transactions in the background.
All the headache is gone.
And so I think, honestly, a lot of developers say that's not the problem, the 30%. The kind of unknown quantity that getting approval is a problem because you get rejected for weird reasons and you don't understand the reasons.
From getting rejected for people.
Yeah, and sometimes Apple seems like they enforce it in unevenly and so forth. She points out, I tried to download an audiobook from Audible on my iPhone and was told why I couldn't. I always hated this because Audible and no Amazon, subscriptions are allowed. Amazon won't allow that because they don't want to give 30%. There are a lot of subscriptions, though, on iPhone that go through Apple. In fact, it's a great convenience for the user because it uses Apple Pay. You just double-click and you recognize your face. It's very fast. In fact, I think that's really the secret sauce in a lot of Instagram ads these days is it's so easy to pay that you're likely in a befuddled, half-asleep state to buy underwear that you will never...
Buying heated underwear and colorful hats.
Oh, it sounds like the voice of experience there.
Heated underwear? What?
It's a long, painful story.
Long story.
You didn't really, did you?
It wasn't me. Wasn't me.
I didn't.
It's cozy.
It wasn't me.
Sounds like a story from the Christmas party late enough.
Yeah, I missed this story.
Anyway, the good
I'm
news,
okay by that.
The information did get in. The bad news, Tim Sweeney lost. And he's not happy about either the Apple or the Google VIG, the 30%. He says it's grossly out of proportion with the cost of services the two companies provide. Epic has its own store, by the way, and when Epic takes their cut, they take an 11.5% cut. They don't take 30%. So,
well, that's their prerogative.
Right. Well, we'll see. I suspect we're going to see. This is a big company pushing back, and they have deep pockets, and I can see them saying, we ought to take this to court.
Go on to court.
This is one we'd like to get a review.
I'll get my popcorn ready for that.
Yeah. I'm kind of with them. I don't know. The other thing that Apple provides from the end user's point of view is the security because they check the app carefully for security flaws. Well, at least in theory. It seems like they're more interested in the color of the font. But in theory, you're more secure in a curated app store like that.
Think about it again with the simpleton mind. Oh, hello.
I hate you, Siri.
Hello, CRY. Think about it from a simpleton standpoint. Let's look at, say, a barber wanting to get started in business, and they go to a particular venue and get charged booth rent. They pay that booth rent because they know, hey, I can get foot traffic here. I'm going to have a lot of my facilities taken care of right here. I don't have to worry about all that extra overhead and so forth. I can make up that 30% with the extra foot traffic that I get each and every week.
Right.
What's the difference here? None of this seems unfair, in my opinion.
Right.
Epic is just, again, getting a little bit too big here. Let it go, dude.
Well, there are other, what if there's only 2 salons in town, and so you've got to go with one or the other?
That's more apt, yeah.
They never, and there is a case to be made that maybe as with economies of scale, so the longer they do this, the better they get at it. Shouldn't they? I mean, should they bring the pricing down to something more reasonable? Because there's no, I mean, Google set 30% because Apple set 30%.
That's true.
Okay, so
but that's the point of monopoly, is that you don't have you establish a monopoly, then you don't have to bring the prices down. You can set it to whatever you want.
With that said, then Epic could just stay in their own lane, and instead of charging 11%, make it 15%. Why not do that?
Because they can't get on the Google.
Oh no! I'm saying Epic just continue to do what they're doing now.
But they did, and they charge 11.5%.
Instead of charging 11.5%, make it 15%. So
well, but they don't want to. They want to. They that's what they use as an example of how they
clearly want some more downloads and some more cash if they're trying to get into the.
They may not. They may just be trying to meet the demand for Fortnite on Android devices.
It's a it's a better experience. We've even said this. The first time they were started to offer a Fortnite for a side load, there was malware.
Right.
And so it's a much better experience for the user if it's in the Play Store. Everybody knows that, and that's the leverage Google has, and that's absolutely the leverage Apple has. There's no other choice. So at least Google gives you a checkbox, and you could say, I want a side load. Apple, by the way, is moving in that direction, I think, on Mac OS. And I think that's the other point of this a little bit might be, the subtext of this might be to threaten Apple and Microsoft. You know, this isn't working on the store, on the mobile, and it really won't work on a desktop. Because Epic has a desktop app.
They do.
They would be really upset. And I remember when the Windows Play Store started, Gabe Newell of Steam was very upset and said, "This is the end. They're trying to kill Steam. They want all app purchases, all game purchases to go through them, and Microsoft take its percentage." And that's the fear, I think, of people like Sweeney and Newell, is they've got their own fiefdoms. They don't want to have to pay these VIGs, and I don't blame them. I don't blame them, and I don't know if it's good for consumers or not. That's a more complicated issue.